Firstly, I will explain the introduction of kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Animalia have several characteristics which make it different compared to other kingdoms. The first characteristic is Animalia. It is a multicellular heterotroph. Heterotrophs are those organisms that cannot produce their own food and only depends on the other organism. Since they are heterotrophs, they feed other living things. An Animalia is classified by their eating habits. There are four eating habits of the Animalia, which is herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, and parasite. And for your information, in parasite get their own food by attaching themselves to the host. The second characteristic of Animalia it is diverse in form and size. It is including invertebrates and vertebrates. Invertebrates is organism that lacking backbones and vertebrates is vice versa. And to show the diversity of the Animalia, it is consists of 35 phyla and most of the phyla occur in the sea. The third characteristic of Animalia is it is lack of cell walls. The Animalia cells will organize into tissue, and their tissue will have their own specific function. The reason why Animalia is lack of cell walls because cell walls will make the cell rigid, and from this, it will reduce the flexibility of the Animalia. It will affect their movement. The fourth characteristic of Animalia is it is motile. It is motile because it is a distinguishable trait compared to other kingdoms, which can differentiate them just based from their physical appearance. Other than that, they are also able to move due to their flexibility and tissue evolution. The tissue evolution of their nerve and muscle tissue will cooperate and enable the movement of the Animalia. However, for the spines is also included for the kingdom Animalia, but during the juvenile phase or for adults we call it as young, they can travel and move around, but during the adult it is sessile because spines will attach to the underwater and remain fixed in a place. And for the reproduction of the Animalia, it is sexually or it is both it is sexually and asexually.
Lastly, nematodes undergo embryonic development. Nematodes are triploblastic organisms, meaning that they have three germ layers, which are the innermost layer endoderm, the middle layer mesoderm, and the outermost layer ectoderm, which give rise to tissues and organs. I would like to talk about the characteristic of Porifera. Porifera is parazoa, which is subkingdom of Animalia. Porifera comprises sponges body structure. Porifera is also most primitive, have no internal organ. Porifera means spore bearing. It is asymmetrical, brightly colored, and also has various shape and size. Next. Porifera live in marine environment and also some freshwater, started as lava and become sessile. So on the right side, you can see the lava of Porifera before it becomes sessile. It is called lava because it can swim. So this is the structure of Porifera. Porifera has central cavity called spongocoel. In current pores called ostia. So basically, spongocoel opens out by oscula. The big hole, as you can see there. Porifera has more branch canals and oscula. So the outer and inner layer of Porifera are made up of sponge and they are separated by mesophyll, the outer layer called pinacocyte and the inner layer called choanocyte. Next, this is the component in mesophyll. There are lymphocyte, pinacocyte, oocyte, porocyte, ameobocyte, sclerocyte, choanocyte. And I would like to emphasize the function of ameobocyte. First of all, ameobocyte digest food from water, transport nutrients from cell to cell, secretes spongin and spicules to strengthen and protect the sponge. Next. So this is the sponge reproduction, the reproduction of Porifera. There are two ways, which is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. So the first one, hermaphroditic organism with both sex. Next, gonochoristic, separate sex. And for the asexual reproduction, it is reproduced by budding and fragmentation, capable of regeneration. Next, we are going to talk about the phylum Cnidaria. This is the characteristic of Cnidaria. The epidermis and gastrodermis are separated by a gelatinous acellular material called the mesoglia, primarily in marine environment and some live in freshwater. They have tissue organization and body plan, displaying radial symmetry. Basically, they have two-layered hollow sac with mouth and surrounding tentacle at one end. And they have also two body forms, which is we call dimorphism. So the name of the two basic body forms is, as we can see on the left side, Olive, and on the right side, Medusa. Cnidarians are diploblastics, means have two tissue layer, which are ectoderm and endoderm. Ectoderm give rise to the epidermis and the endoderm give rise to the inner gastrodermis. Next, we are going to talk about the unique characteristics of the Cnidaria, which are specialized stinging cells called cnidocytes used to capture prey.
And this is the classification of Cnidaria. It has three classes, which is Hydrozoa, Scyphozoa, and Anthozoa. And for the Hydrozoa, the example of the Hydrozoa is Hydra. Hydra live in freshwater and streams. Our Chromatin for stream is small river, and Hydra exists only in polyform. Hydra is reproduced by sexual and asexual reproduction. And the second example of the hydrozoa is Obelia. Obelia possesses a life cycle is different compared to the Hydra because Obelia possesses polyps and medusa, which is has explained before. Obelia polyps are dimorphic, and there are two types of polyps, which is feeding polyps and reproductive polyps. The second classes of the Cnidaria is Scyphozoa, and the Scyphozoa actually it is a jellyfish, and for the Scyphozoa, Medusa is the mainstay of their life cycle. Um, the Medusa, and but for the polyps, there's either no no polyps at all, or the polyp stage is much reduced. And the third classes is Endozoa. Endozoa contain a sea anemones and corals, and but it is unlike other classes of the Cnidaria because it is either individual or colonial polyps. And for the Endozoa, they doesn't have medusa stage. Okay. The third phylum is phylum Platyhelminthes. The characteristic of platyhelminthes, it is known as flatworms. It has soft bodies, unsubmitted and flattened dorsoventrally. Dorsoventralis meaning is flat upper and lower of the surface. It is triple blasted animal because it has three layers. Their body is derived from three embryonic cell layers. We call it as ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. And this is bilaterally symmetrical and isolate. Isolate meaning is no internal body cavity and it exhibit sepalization because the sense organs are concentrated at the anterior ends and head, and it have a ladder-like nervous system and a pair of anterior ganglia, and the ganglia function as their brain. And the other characteristic for the digestive system of platyhelminthes is the gut sac-like, which is it has only single opening, and the pharynx will extend for food gathering. And for the excretion and small regulation, it is controlled by ciliated phloem cell located in foraminifera. Foraminifera is excretory tube, but it is lack of internal opening.
So these are the characteristics of platyhelminthes for reproduction, which they have asexual and also sexual, but most of them are hermaphrodite, which means they have both females and males reproductive organs present in adult worm. And these are the classification of platyhelminthes. We have class Testuda, class Trematoda, class Turbellaria, class Monogyna. An example for class Testuda is Taenia species, class Trematoda is Fasciola species, and class Turbellaria is Planaria species, class Monogyna is Dactylogyra species. And the one I have marked P means that they are parasitic, while class Turbellaria, which is they are free living. Free living means that their survival, they do not depend on other organisms for them to survive. So now we jumped into the classification of platyhelminthes, class Testuda. So class Testuda is endoparasitic tapeworms, which live in digestive tract of muscle tissue of various animals, and their body has three regions. There's calyx, head, neck, and series of repetitive segments called proglottids. And their head have suckers enabled to attach to the host's intestines. And each proglottid has male and female organs, which I mentioned just now is hermaphrodite. They are covered with thick cuticle and lack of digestive system. So now, classification of the next class, which is class Trematoda, they are leaf-like parasitic flukes, such as blood flukes, liver flukes, and lung flukes. They have simple digestive system with mouth at interior end, one or more suckers surrounding the mouth for the attachment to the host, and they suck blood and tissue fluids from their host, which also the characteristics of the parasites lah. And then such as an example is Fasciola hepatica, which is liver fluke. They can infect liver of various mammals that can cause disease such as fascioliasis. So the next class is class Turbellaria. They are members of planarians. They are free living, which means they do not depend on other organisms to survive. They are carnivorous, that can be found in freshwater. Their head is blunt and arrow-shaped. Their auricles is the sense organs to detect potential foods and enemies. They have two eye spots as photoreceptors that are sensitive to light. They ingest food using a tube-like pharynx located in the center of ventral surface. And water balance or osmoregulation is maintained by the photonephridia. So platyhelminthes as parasites is because testodes and flukes cause important disease in humans and livestock. Schistosomiasis, which is also widely known as snail fever, um, is important platyhelminth disease that can cause suffering and some deaths in tropical countries. And then next thing is they can cause also neurocyticercosis, which means that larvae of pork tapeworm penetrate the central nervous system that cause major cause of acquired epilepsy worldwide, as you can see in the diagram. So for the diagram, the process is that the matured fluids in blood vessels of intestines will then um, they will reproduce sexually in human hosts. But then the fertilized eggs exit hosts in feces, and these eggs develop in water into ciliated larvae or larvae that can infect snails. So sexual reproduction within snail results in another type of motile larva. The larvae penetrate skin and blood vessels of human. So basically, that is how the process and the human is the host.
For the characteristic of nematodes known as roundworms, they are parasite, meaning that some of them are living in host. The structure of nematodes is bilaterally symmetrically. The body is elongated, cylindrical and tapered at both ends. They are covered with tough flexible cuticles, give them protection, and body shape molds as the worm grows. Most are dioecious, just like humans. There are male nematodes and female nematodes.
So the next part is the second part of the characteristics of a nematode. First of all, they have a complete digestion system with mouth and anus, as you can see in the diagram. But they do not possess organs for circulation or excretion. Nematodes usually use their chemosensory and also mechanosensory neurons embedded in their cuticle to respond to the environmental stimuli. So therefore, the diffused gas will dissolve directly through the body wall. And thirdly, they are triploblastic organisms, which means they have three embryonic germ layers, which are endoderm, ectoderm, and mesoderm. The endoderm is the most inner part, the mesoderm is the middle part, and the ectoderm is the outer layer part. And they are considered as pseudocoelomate organisms with body cavity that is not derived from the mesoderm, or another way of saying it, they have false body cavities, and the internal organs are suspended within the fluid-filled pseudocoelom. So for the last part, we are going to specify on Brugia malai, which is a roundworm nematode that can cause lymphatic filariasis and also elephantiasis. So this B. malai is transmitted by mosquitoes that is restricted to Southeast Asia. So how this happen is that the adult worms will reside in the lymphatic vessels that can cause a blockage, as seen in the diagram below. So this will cause the lymphatic fluid to is prevented to flow through, causing the particular area to swell and be big.